Welcome to the SIFA FC Funding Window 3 Call for Proposals Information Day. We're very delighted to be here this morning and to be working with you all. It's an exciting opportunity. This is the English session. There will be a French session this afternoon, so you are most welcome to join as well if you are Francophone or have interest in both languages. The SIFA Funding Window 3 is the Support Innovation Skills Development in TVET grant, which is focusing on 8 member state countries, which will be introduced shortly. It is a competitive process, and we are looking for, this is the first call of 4 for Funding Window 3. This call opened on the 15th of December 2022. My name is Carlton Aslett. I am the team leader of the fund management team. We are a service provider to ALDA-NEPAD. ALDA-NEPAD is the implementing agency, and SIFA is funded by the EU, the European Union, and KfW, the German Development Bank. The purpose of the session today is to give the guiding principles to inform about SIFA as a program and how the application process will follow. The session is organized into 3 parts. The first part is a welcome from ALDA-NEPAD, notably Madame Unami Dube, the beating heart of SIFA FC in ALDA-NEPAD. The second part will be an overview of Funding Window 3, which will be given by Hilary Lindy, who is our fund manager for Funding Window 3. And the third part takes you through the application process, which will be presented by our colleague Lidao Betema. Following this, we will give an opportunity for questions and answers. You are encouraged and most welcome to submit your questions during the presentations. We want to make this session interactive, so please, if you have any questions during the presentation, type them into the question box available. After this, we will have a short Q&A session. The importance of the documentation of questions will be answered and exposed as a resource on the website thereafter. So, mindful that we only have 90 minutes this morning, I have the great pleasure and honour to introduce you to Unami Dube, please.
Thank you, Carlton, for the warm welcome, and good morning to all of you from far and wide. And it is a pleasure to join you from Johannesburg, from the African Union Development Agency. And I want to say on behalf of the partners, the African Union Commission, BMZ and EU and GIZ, that it is a pleasure to be finally having this day where we are able to share with you the information that will help you to give us a quality proposal. But mine is really to welcome you and to provide some motivation. Why this window? I want to just reflect on, I always like to say, look out the window. And if you can see any young person walking about, ask yourself, what are they doing outside? Why are they not in school? Why is that young woman sitting under a tree selling tomatoes? Why is she not in some gainful employment? What about the refugee who's probably sitting somewhere and wondering, if I've lost my home, what else do I have? But that is a young person, and some of these young people are already young adults with children. What we are looking for here are those projects that are able to translate learning to employability for these young people. We are looking for projects that will showcase new ways of doing things, that are showcasing how to impact on scale, that we can take to other countries and show how to quickly accelerate and help young people get into these opportunities. So it is a pleasure and a joy to be with you today with the FMT the fund management team. It's so easy to use our colloquial language, and to share with you. And we really invite you to present your questions. We'll be able to answer some of them today, but we will also be running a frequently asked questions on the website so that you are able to access the information. Ultimately, this is a competitive process, so quality matters. And that is why this day is important, so that you are able to really reflect on the questions, the guidelines we have provided, and to really showcase your project as the one that is fully deserving. And we're looking forward to meeting with you all, shall I say maybe the winners, once we have considered all the proposals. So thank you once again for joining us, and all the best for the rest of the conversation today. Thank you.
Thank you, Inami. Right, let's get down to it. We're going to ask Hilary now to give us a detailed presentation on what is funding window 3. Hilary, please.
Thank you, Carlton, and good morning, everyone. So as Carlton already introduced our team, just to recap that my name is Hilary Lindian, and I'm the fund manager of the innovation window, funding window 3, which we are now in the middle of the up and running call. So thanks everyone for joining us here, and I trust that you also have had the opportunity to go and visit the SIFA website. You have perhaps already studied a little bit the guidelines for the applicants, our little manual which is there, and you have probably already started also building up your proposal, including the partnership that is required to deliver the project. So let me upfront simply just make a note also that, as Carlton mentioned, there will be additional calls coming, and these will be published in due course this year. So you will see that while maybe the percentage of the actual project funded on the first call can be relatively low, there is always opportunity to come back and to recap and to build your competencies, as well as calibrate your proposal further. So in that sense, it's a great opportunity for all of us. Next slide, please. So in my presentation today, I will go through a little bit what innovation in skills development is for SIFA, but I mainly devote my time to look at the call for proposals. What does it look like, the funding window 3 call? So you will hear a general overview of the call, and it's very much aligned already what you have read, perhaps already the guide for applicants. But then I will discuss a little bit about what is market validation and what is market validation projects in the context of funding window 3. I will also touch briefly about output-based financing, which is the main financing mechanism that we will apply now when we are implementing, of course, the grant, hopefully as many as possible for you who are here in the call today. And finally, then touch a little bit, of course, about the timetable and the questions perhaps arise regarding the evaluation. Smart application then will be done by my colleague Lidao. Next slide, please. So innovation in skills development, what is it about? So I would like to ask you to pay close attention when you think about the innovation, that it is something that needs to happen in the funding window 3 in the context of TVET. So we know that the world today is full of innovation, and there are the buzzword almost everything. But when you think about your application, I would really advise you to think closely that what is this that is either new to the world or which makes the existing applications, services, products, processes better regarding the TVET. And grant funding, when we are looking here, as I already mentioned, it is really available through 4 open call for proposals. So So think carefully and calibrate your thoughts on this, because as Unami already mentioned, we will focus very much on quality. And the last point, perhaps, if you think about it, who are the grant recipients? These, in this case, of course, are you, perhaps, who are here in the call. And you may think about that it could be a good idea maybe to organize a partnership that brings together more players, or let's say a partnership of players that are representing different role players that are usually operating in so-called innovation systems or innovation ecosystems. So we very much emphasize and encourage you also to look if there is an opportunity to partner, whatever your proposal may be, with the private sector, because as we normally know, private sector plays critical role, not only developing the technologies, but usually delivering these as a services or products into the market. Next slide, please. So innovation in SIFA funding window 3, the classic definition, of course, is that this is a new or improved product, service, or process, or in a business model. Again, I emphasize that it's in a context of TVET. But in our case, we also would like to see that whatever innovation you are proposing, it also matches the proven demand. So you have already been there in the market and you have identified that, wow, this is something that, you know, we need to tweak our service towards to, so it can actually gain more traction to the certain type of clientele which has never reached before, or it can be something that services completely new, different geography. And finally, for us, of course, the important thing is that innovation is something that actually happens, and it's going to be taken up on the ground at the labor market. So innovation is something really practical that is being used and consumed by the target end beneficiaries. It's not just an idea. It's also something that it's not doing more on the same type of products, services, or processes, but it can be something where you are improving incrementally your existing product, service, or a process. And we see in the world that oftentimes this is the case how innovation actually are coming to a play, that it's incremental improvement. You may introduce, for example, new technology that expands the delivery of your services to a new type of audience. Next slide, please. So innovation by example, this is something that is again mentioned in your manual of applicants. And we also have provided some novel examples what could and should perhaps be there. But again, what I emphasize is that it's product services, but it's also process innovation that we are looking to fund. And in the end, if you have a strong partnership in your proposal, we could see that there are some new organizational practices also that can emerge. New type of partnerships where the role players who previously haven't worked together but have maybe thought about working together. So I encourage you also to think about this as an opportunity to maybe reach out and form partnership with that type of organizations that you may have long thought that would be useful for our business, for our services, but there hasn't just been opportunity to do that before. Next slide, please. Now going to the call for proposals. As I mentioned, general overview, we do the market validation project, brief look there, output-based financing, evaluation, and timeline. Next slide, please. So what is SIFA funding window call for proposal general overview? Here, perhaps the most important thing is to remember that it's the validation what we are looking for. So market validation of prototypes, concepts that are already existing, and these would be then leading up to the new take-up of a new or improved product, services, or processes in TVET sector. So we are not just looking to fund ideas. Unfortunately, the idea has to already be there. We are really looking funding to fund something that is there tangible in the form of a prototype, or it is already at the concept level. In SIFA funding, funding window 3, you may feel that this would be something that it can be delivered to see whether both the actual technical prototype and whether the acceptance in the market can work. Indeed, we have 18 months time for the delivery of the project, but it goes very fast. So I consider and advise you carefully consider how much work you are going to pack in your projects. We have 3 teams which are of course critical that you align with: digital skills enhancing employability, supporting women, youth, and vulnerable groups to enhance employability and enterprise creation, and innovative skills development in informal sector beneficiaries. Important for the team is, of course, that you will take a look what is actually the purse of the grant funding that is provided here. But perhaps equally important is that you look the theme carefully and you see that where does my offer fit the best within each team. I would, for example, like to highlight that the first team, here we are really looking also something that perhaps may require a knowledge that is usually perhaps hosted in the areas of academia, research, development, and innovation agencies, and so forth, also in the companies, of course. And in the second theme, we may look at, for example, activities that are bringing to play new type of organizations that sometimes may not be included in TVET sector, such as tech hubs and labs, incubators, accelerators, who are currently playing very dominant role in enterprise creation, especially at the early stage. 4 call for proposals, as I already mentioned, based on a quality, and we have a reasonable budget for 4 calls to deliver. And finally, the conditions. Here I would like to pick up that we are really here on doing market validation, so kindly refrain to do heavy R&D or infrastructure support. This is perhaps not necessarily that type of a call. However, if you would like to invest in equipment that will make your validation environment more conducive, that is necessary to your validation environment, of course, you are then free to do that as it's well justified. Next slide, please. Call for proposals. Again, this is already in your catalog, in your manual that you have been looking for. But here, perhaps to pay attention really about who will be or where are you as a potential beneficiary. Little bit the different type of categorization as per theme. So pay attention to that. We have not yet decided how many projects in total we will be funding. I know this is a question that probably comes to your mind, but as far as it stands, so far for the first call, we are looking anywhere a ballpark figure of 2 to 3 projects per theme. This, of course, in the end will depend on how many projects we get, what is the quality of the projects, and of course, eventually, what will be the total amount of grant funding that, let's say, the best projects will be asking that we will then consider for funding. Duration 18 months is critical. Please pay attention to this. Nobody wants to be there longer than that, but be also realistic. Market validation projects less than 18 months, they tend to be quite challenging, especially if you have 2-3 iterations to be done with your potential end user population. Next slide, please. How will the call for proposal fold? A general overview of 3. So as you know, we have already launched the call for proposal, and now we stand in the phase where the submission of proposal is critical. We are doing the information day. Smart ME was open for the application last week. So what happens next is that 6th we will close the call, then there will be an eligibility check. Please pay attention again that you have all the necessary documents aligned, proposal signed, as well as other key documents and key steps complied, as mentioned in our guidance document for applicants. And after that, we will move into a technical evaluation and organizational assessment. Technical evaluation will be done by independent experts, team of independent experts which present the knowledge and a breadth of understanding both on innovation and the market conditions in each of the SIFA partner countries. And finally, it will be reviewing and contracting. And we do hope that we would be able really to kick off the process in early April this year. It's a challenging timetable, and it will require at the end of the reviewing and contracting and negotiating with of course, with our team as well as then the selected candidates. But I do believe that this can be well achieved. Next slide, please. Market validation project. What are we talking about when we talk about market validation in the context of SIFA? So first of all, where the validation happens. So we do hope that you are able to identify a good location for your market validation. Local, national, transnational. As you know, we are operating in 8 different countries. So transnational validation can even be an option for you. But the critical here is to understand why are we doing or why are you doing the market validation? So it is really about to clarify the understanding of, is there a demand for whatever I'm proposing to put on the market, whether it's a service, whether it's a product, process, or simply even a new organizational practice. So market validation will establish your technical and financial feasibility through this project. So that's why it's critical that you already have a tangible prototype or a concept in place, which then can, through SIFA funding window 3 support, roll out to the users in your designed market validation environment. It is also an opportunity for you to think about that. How do I raise awareness and engage with my potential funders going forward? Because what we are looking here is that you will actually, after the validation phase, you will go and roll out the service in a sustainable manner. Mind you here also that we are not only saying that this has to be a market validation, something which is prototype phase. It can also be replication of already existing working service or product. And replication also, of course, requires a validation wherever new environment you are going to go, or if you are planning to target to extend this product or service to the completely new user group. So replication is also encouraged. But here we are not yet funding a deployment full scale, nor do we fund R&D, only R&D. Next slide, please. Market validation project. So what we are here really looking is the proof of concept and a business plan, and you come back after 18 months and you would be saying that, yes, this is what it looks like when we roll this out for a full deployment. Here, mind you, that the result also can be that the validation says that no, this particular solution, what we are proposing to roll out in a market, it doesn't roll out. It doesn't work there based on our initial assumptions. These assumptions were validated now during the 18 months, but based on the feedback what we have received, we need to go back to the drawing board and we need to reload and do this again. And that is a perfectly valid finding, because what we really are looking here is to make sure that whatever you are planning to roll out, it will be rolled out in a sustainable manner. Next slide, please. Looking, where are you standing now? Hopefully you are already here. So project to start, what we need is a team with a registered entity. So we have a designated lead partner who has to be a registered entity in one of the 8 SIFA countries. You need to have your prototype and concept available, and of course, initial business plan available. We will be not looking for a big thick document which details how you are planning to run your business in 2 to 5 year time. Instead, it has to be in your mind, and it will be cascaded down, of course, partly also visible in your proposal. But later on, when you go to the market validation process funded by SIFA funding window 3, we will also like to see that there will be new refreshments, new thoughts, feedback on your initial assumptions in the business plan. So you will, in the end, produce more enhanced business plan at the end of the project. Purpose, we already discussing about this, but mind you that we are also looking to see that if there are some technical issues, integration of technologies that you have already been used but needs to be tweaked a little bit, perhaps a new feature needs to be introduced in the technical application. These can be also included, but as long as they are within the scope of the validation. Next slide, please. Output-based financing. So here, critical is the procedure. We will reimburse, and the lead partner is also playing a critical role because lead partner will be the one who will be communicating with us. This will happen during the process of application, but it will also happen going forward during the process of implementation. So what we are looking for you here is that you will actually need to do a pre-financing of the goods and works. We can, to a certain extent, participate, but the idea here is that you will also take a stake what's happening here, and that's why we are also looking at the matching resources. When you are going forward and rolling out your project first time, you are kicking off, I would strongly advise you to think about that. How can we get started, even though you get your first milestone payment or reimbursement at a time when you kick off? But how will you sustain the process of going from month 1 to month 4 to month 6 in case there will be delays in your project? So having a carefully crafted financial plan, which also includes the use of your own resources, your matching resources, is actually very critical to the whole process, what we are looking here. So pay attention to this, and this is also an area that we will, of course, then scrutinize and go further with you once we are in a stage that we are starting to negotiate the actual implementation agreement. Next slide, please. Output-based financing, as you have seen already, it is about the market validation projects and how do we phase the market validation project. So far, we see the 4 different stages. We have the preparatory stage. We expect you to do the market research before you go into the validation. And then we have the key part of your project, which is the actual validation, the rollout of that defined user group 2, maybe even 3 times, iterating, getting the feedback, understanding how do you need to maybe tweak whatever this part of your concept is, whether it's actually related to the business plan or whether it's actually related even to the technology itself, and you go back again. And then we have the closing. Here, it's important to note that on the preparation, your first output will be a work plan for the whole project. You will be receiving 15% of the grant, and that's fixed. On the market research, market validation, this is the area, of course, which is the core part of the practical project. And here you have an opportunity to calibrate not only the resources, the personnel or technical resources, but also to the related funding. You also have an opportunity to think about what are you going to do during the market research and what are you going to do through a market validation. We require certain key outputs, and based on these technical outputs, as well as the project progress outputs, such as progress report and financial report, we require these to pay you after each phase milestone is closed. But here you have also opportunity to include other technical deliverables that are related to your product and service, but also bearing in mind that these are perhaps sometimes confidential issues. And again, it brings me back to the issue of the documentation, whatever you are going to prepare before you kick off the project. And here in particular, I would be looking at the IP agreements within the consortia that they are placed once you kick off. Then closing, we have the final report, business and financing plan. So a reflection of your initial assumptions, as well as then the audit report. And we will actually ask then, of course, to provide the audit report of the accounts that are related to your particular market validation grant project that has been implemented in 18 months. Here again, mind you that this is a particular time-bound activity of 18 months. You may have a project that continues beyond this, and I would actually very much like to see that it continues beyond this, because it means that it will go into the initial deployment or full deployment. But for what it comes to us and our grant, it's the 18 months that we are looking for. And of course, normal practices apply that you have to open your separate bank account for these particular activities and so forth. Now, next slide, please. Finally, looking a little bit about the output-based financing. So this is when we look at, for example, what are we looking there in the milestone 2 as an output in a market research. So when you go on validation, and you need to have a market research study in place. You need to have a market validation plan in place. And these are sort of a basic requirements, what we are looking for, that you will actually deliver then in your technical outputs. We will have a support for you in place. So again, like I mentioned, we will do back and forth to calibrate the expectations on our side, but also expectations on your side towards us. So we are able to make sure that whatever is being reached, it complies with our requirements, our very basic requirements, as well as then that you are able to do and deliver this, both the technical resources as well as, of course, with the financial resources available. Next slide, please. Evaluation. 2 important things: eligibility check, technical evaluation. Pay attention to eligibility check what will be done to your proposal. So look not only timely submission, which is a no-brainer, but oftentimes we see that come 6th of February, there will be still people fulfilling the proposal in the last minute. Do not leave it to the last minute. Send the proposal day before the call is closing. Please do so, because there won't be any room for excuse. When it comes to midnight 6th, the call will be closed, and it will be a shame to be there filling your proposal in between. Signed completeness. Make sure that you have a right geographical scope in your proposal, and make sure that you have a right duration. No need to go any shorter than 18, but you can't go beyond 18 either. So make sure that 18 is there. If you absolutely insist that I can do this in 16 months, of course, that's perfectly fine. Make sure that you stick with the grant budget, and pay attention that the grant budget can be different than the overall budget is. If you go through a full top level and up to the maximum grant, make sure that your project budget also includes your 10% counterpart contribution. So these are the key things, but you have a long list of basic administrative documents confirming the eligibility. These are listed in your documents, and we are also making a rain check on these during the application in the Smart ME. But pay attention that you are delivering all these in a nice form, because it is a shame to be dropped out on eligibility check. We won't be coming back to you because we are expecting high number of applications. So again, make sure that you have all the documents there and submit the day before at latest. Technical evaluation, moving after the eligibility check done by our team, we will see that this will be done by independent experts. And there are certain evaluation criteria which we are looking in particularly on proposal part A and part B. And this again is also mentioned in a guide for applicants. So look 5 different areas on part B and how you are going to fulfill these criteria within the Smart ME application form. You see that under each criteria except the first one, responsiveness to COVID-19 or similar disruptive crisis, you will see that there will be several sub-elements that you need to fulfill. These are the areas that the evaluators will be looking for. They are looking for your answer on these. How do you, through different sub-criteria, are actually demonstrating jobs or demonstrating value for money? There might be sub-criteria which is looking for expanding potential to the new geographies within for example, neighboring countries or 8 SIFA partner countries. Take it very seriously. Take all the time you have and all the space you have in order to answer these questions. Innovation will be tackling about the issues that do you actually have a working prototype or concept in place, or is this just a vague idea? So please do pay attention, because the application is also quite time consuming, and you don't want to spend your time fulfilling application if you see that there is one criteria where you certainly will score low. Next slide, please. Finally, summary and things to remember. I'm aware that I took a little bit of your time, Vidal, so my apologies for this and apologies for you listeners. But it's always good to try to go at least the critical things, go fast on live and face to face in this event. Mind you that you have opportunity not only ask questions during this event, but you can also send questions through chat, and you can send questions which we will try to answer during this event. But if not, all the questions will be answered in our website one by one. So pay attention also to the fact that these questions will be in our website as soon as hopefully by tomorrow. So everybody, even those who did not participate in a call, they will get answered to the brilliant questions that you may have in your mind. So things to remember, I listed a few things there that you may want to look, and this could be also something that are actually critical to your proposal. They certainly will improve your chances in the actual evaluation. But I also have to give you a disclaimer that when we are doing this kind of information day, of course, we cannot go too much into details of advising you how to build a proposal. Next slide, please. So I thank you here, and Lida, sorry stealing your time. So back to you, Carlton, and next time we see will be the Q&A.
Thank you, Hilary, for a very comprehensive presentation. As Hilary has said, all this information presented this morning can be found in the application guide, applicant's guide, and other documents which are on the website. And obviously, we're encouraging all applications from all of the 8 pilot countries. We haven't mentioned them this morning. They are Cameroon, Ethiopia, Ghana, Kenya, Nigeria, South Africa, Togo, and Tunisia. So we now know what Funding Window 3 is about. Lidao, tell us, how are we going to make our applications?
Thank you, Carlton. Hello, everyone. My name is Lidao Betema. So I'm going to take you through the SmartMe application system. Next slide. So SmartMe platform is used globally. So this won't be the first call to use SmartMe. So we have SmartMe used in 51 programs, 89 calls, and across 186 countries. So this is a well-built platform to allow you to submit your applications very easily. Next slide. So this will go from the grant application to application review, and beyond the application process, you will have SmartMe to support you through the implementation and also the monitoring, evaluation, and the reporting. So the system is owned by Adalia, based in Finland. And not only applicants, but also fund managers are using the platform. So it's a digital platform that is going to support the Funding Windows 3 throughout, of course, the application process and also the monitoring and the evaluation. While using SmartMe platform, do not fear, because there's confidentiality of data and everything you input there is well stored. We suggest that you use SmartMe application on your laptop, okay, or on your desktop, even though this is supported on mobile. So for best a better user experience, it's advised to use SmartMe on your laptop or your desktop. And the system will allow you to enter data, to store the data in until you submit your application. And whenever you want to retrieve the data, this is easy to do by accessing your SmartMe web page. Next slide. Now we are going to go through the application submission. How do you register and how do you use the platform efficiently? So we are going to go through some key elements to keep in mind, some key elements that will help you properly use the platform. And later on during the Q&A, you will have the time and the opportunity to answer all the questions that are not covered during this presentation. Next slide. Okay. First thing to remember when you access the skillsafrica.org website, you will navigate down the page and then you can see the sign-in page. So how to sign in to SmartMe. First thing to remember for those who already have an account. So if you registered previously, you will just have to sign in with your email and password. So the email and password you register with previously, you just enter it and then you sign in. For those who are visiting the website for the first time, who are new applicants and want to start a new application, you will have to register first. So to register, you click on Don't Have an Account, click here to register. And a feature that is very important also to remember is the Forgot Your Passwords feature. So if you are already registered, you have an account, but can't remember your password, then you click on the Forgot Your Password to be able to retrieve your password. So you will get a link and then you will follow the steps that are advised to reset your password to get a new password. So let's go through the steps to register a new account. So if you don't have a new account, no problem, just click here to register and it will bring you to the next page. Next slide. So on the next page, you will have few details to enter. So that will be your name, your first name, your last name, and the password. And when you fill in the page that looks like the image on the right, then you click on register. So it will be the same workspace for partners. So you can have your partners across across countries. So you can work all on the same page. So the lead partner will be the only one who will be able to submit the application at the end. So all the project members or members that are filling in the application will be able to work on the application itself, but at the end, only the lead partner will be able to submit the same. And as you access SmartMe, you will see that it's easy to access and you will be able to work on the application without any issue, which we are going to see on the next slides that are coming. Next. The registration itself is very important to know. When you click on the register button, after filling in the details, you will receive an email. The email will be the validation for you to be able to access your account. So you will have to click on the link you get in your mailbox to be able to confirm your account, and then you can access the SmartMe platform. So in case you don't get the email in your mailbox folder, it's very important to remember this email confirmation mail can go to your spam box. So when you don't find it in your main mailbox folder, navigate to your spam folder to be able to check if you got the confirmation, the registration confirmation mail in your spam mailbox. So keep in mind, you will get the confirmation email from Skills Initiative for Africa, and it will be a no reply adalia.fi mail. So this is important to note. Why? Because if you get some confirmation email that are not from this sender, please be careful not to click on these links. Next. Thank you. We covered the registration, so this is just a quick recap. You don't have an account, you click on the register to get an email confirmation. You click on the link in the email confirmation to be able to validate your account. And if you don't get it in your main folder, go to your spam mailbox and look for the email from Adalia to be able to validate your account. After the validation, you have access to SmartMe dashboard. So when you connect to SmartMe dashboard, this is the page you will see on the home. And the main functionalities you see here as 4: my applications, account information, support, and a help tutorial. My applications, we are going to navigate through. Account information, very important to know. When you click on account information, you will see your details, where you can also change your password later on if you have access to this platform. And the tutorial will be the visual video that will help you go through few steps to be familiar to the platform. Next slide. Now let's navigate through the important one for us today, the application interface. When you click on my application interface, for you at first it will look empty. The first thing to do is to click on new application. When you click on new application, then you will see the line that you see with no title and then your project ID. The project ID is very important because it will be your unique identifier for when you open some requests. We will be able to follow if there is some specific, let's say, request on your project, then it will be easy for the support team to help you through that. So when you click on the no title, you will be able then to go through the application and start filling it. And when you go and you navigate on the right, you will see manage partners. It's very important for the lead partner. Why? Because when you click on manage partner, then you will be able to organize your team and be able to invite people to fill the same application as you. Next. Thank you. On the new application page, you will see the application itself. So please take the time to read it through. As Hilary explained, it's very important to understand what the application is about, what is requested from you to be able to fill it efficiently. So read every single detail to be familiar with the call itself. And very important, the documents. We are going to go through the list later on, but the documents, the support documents are on the first page, okay, on the first page of the application. And it's very important to go through them. You will see the English version and then the French version under. So this is the application site, application page where you will be able to read all through and start filling your application. Next slide, please. Important to know and important also to fill is the application annexes. So this is part of the application itself. So you will have to fill this in as well after the application questions that you will be answering, and then you will fill the annexes. All together will be your application for this call. Next. An important feature that will be very helpful for everyone in case you don't have constant access to the SmartMe platform, then you can decide to print the PDF version or download the PDF version of the application. You can work on it later on, and when you have time and you want to connect to the platform, then you can connect to the platform and then either type in your responses or copy paste depending on how you use the PDF version. So this feature is very, very important to have in mind. You can find it on the application section directly without accessing the application itself, or here as it is shown on the screen. Next slide, please. So we were going through the, we saw this previously on the application page. It's very important to go through the guidelines, and this is the list of guidelines that you have on the page. So you have the guide for applicants, the call for proposal, project budget table, template, guideline to resolve framework, guideline to eligible and non-eligible costs, guideline to SmartMe submission. So you have all those documents to support you through. So the best will be to take time to read them through so that you have all the information, important information before starting your application. And you can every time go back to it when you want to review a specific information or a specific detail. So please, I will stress this again and again. It's very important to go through the guideline to have all the important knowledge to fill in properly the application and to have to get all right and go back to them whenever needed. Thank you. The technical support. This will be a key element also on throughout the process, the application process. Why will it be key? You will have this section, so it will be the last one, right, on your SmartMe dashboard. When you click there, you will first have the frequently asked questions. So all the questions that are published from previous calls and frequently asked questions. So first thing you do when you have some doubts or you need some help is to go through, there's FAQs, you read them through, or you see if I have the answer to my question. If yes, you read it through. If you want some follow-up question, you can submit so that we know that you read the previous article. But if you don't have any, you don't have the answer to your question, then you can submit the support request. This will come to us, and then we will get back to you. The team is trying to be very quick to get back to you. So do not hesitate. If you don't have any answer to your question on the frequently asked question, then reach out to us. And there is also the tutorial video that will be very, very insightful. I would recommend you to watch this after the information there. Next slide, please. This just to recap now, when you go through the application dashboard after registering, you have access to the application dashboard, and you have the option to change your password in My Informations later on. You have a tutorial video that will give you some insight on the platform at first hand. You have the option now to go through the application section by applications and start a new application. You have the option to manage your partners as a lead partner and then start the application. When you click on the application, then you can see the first page, which is application with all the guidelines. You read them through, and you have the annexes that you need to fill in as accurate as the application itself. And you have the support section where you can see the frequently asked questions and the tutorial video again. And if there's no answer to your doubt, then you can reach out to us, where we will take we will get back to you quickly on your question. That will be the section for the dashboard itself on SmartMe. Now, beyond the application process, SmartMe will be used for the applicant that will qualify for the monitoring evaluation throughout the process. So it's very important to know that the platform will not be used just for the application, but beyond that. And it will be used to monitor the progress of your project, the evaluation through the milestone, and also with the help of the fund management team and the country coordinator, we will be reporting using SmartMe. So this is just for your information on what will come next after the application phase. Thank you, and to you, Carlton. We will have the time later on the QA session to answer all your doubts. Some doubt that you won't be you will be having after this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Nadal. And Nadal will be at the back end of those questions for the next weeks, giving you his undivided attention to support you as necessary as we get all of your applications in. And as Ilari has highlighted, complete, so you have the best opportunity of winning the grant award. Right, so thank you, Lidao. We're now moving to the Q&A session. Lidao is staying with us and Ilari will be joining. Gentlemen, please.
Thank you, Carlton. Thanks, Lidao. You did better work than I did. You really stick well into the schedule. So this means that we have 30 minutes to Q&A. And so far we have received about 8 questions. So let me again thank you for the questions, but also emphasize this, that we will answer all these questions in the SIFA website. And this is important because not only that everybody have opportunity to learn from the answers, but it's also important for us to get your questions because it's also in our interest to see that where do we need to, for example, calibrate certain things in a program when we consider in the next forthcoming calls. So feedback collection is part of the exercise, and that's why we are very keen on having feedback and questions whenever you are able to provide those. Mind you, though that we will close the communication and Q&A between our team and applicants some time before the actual call closes, because as you understand, we cannot do Q&A in a manner that we will answer until the last minute. But it's also important that whatever Q&A individual applicants are proposing to us, that we are able to share the answer to those Q&A questions with all applicants in our website, because it's simply a question of open and transparency. But let me look at a couple of the questions that we have actually got now online. And there is a question that whether funds can be used to pay stipends for learnerships to youth who will assist in the market validation pilot. Obviously, it's critical that whatever resources, and these include personal resources as well, whatever resources you need in order to do the validation, you will also costing these resources, and you will include these as part of your project budget. Now, if there are certain type of a user group, for example, if they are students who need to be, let's say, transported to certain place in order to use that certain service or solution, what you are providing, they are an essential part of the validation. Without their participation, the validation would not be possible, because they are the ones that you have identified as your primary end users. So the answer is yes. Obviously, you cannot pay, for example, in this case, the students and learners, it's anything that goes beyond your chosen validation period. So you are not paying the students, for example, when you are preparing your market validation plan, or you are not paying the students after the validation has ended. So pay attention to this. But I hope this also covers some of the thoughts what the other potential applicants may have regarding the costs and what is attached and approved in the market validation process. Second question is that can we use funding to digitalize the existing paper-based materials if you have chosen Team 2 on entrepreneurship? Now, this is an interesting question, and it definitely rings a bell that there might be something interesting coming out of this as a product, obviously service attached to it. So again, my answer is that if you have a prototype or a concept of the overall service or product in place, but the validation of this in a target market requires that these existing paper-based materials need to be digitalized. So you are delivering something to some user or end beneficiary who will be testing the usability of these in online, for example, then the answer, of course, is yes. You cannot do it without paying attention to the digitalization, and it will come with certain costs. Can two TVET institutions partner for the fund? Oh, absolutely. There's no barriers to that. On the contrary, we very much encourage that the TVET institutions are partnering and they learn from each other, and even TVET institutions coming from different SIFA countries, or in case if the coordinator is from SIFA country, why not? You can maybe include TVET institutions also outside of the 8 countries, as long as the coordinator comes from one of the 8 countries. So indeed, the idea really is also to see that the TVET ecosystem, so to speak, is able to exchange good practice and learn from each other. And of course, business-wise, in the end, able to implement good innovations in their own target markets, either together with the partner from other country or themselves. So yes, short answer is yes. In the non-eligible cost, it is mentioned that the constructions in category A and B are not eligible. So how does SIFA define category A and B construction? So let me first say that 18 months, for example, it's a very short time to do validation, as some other questions have already answered. So to build something from the scratch and arrive into the situation where one is able to even launch, for example, a tender competition in order to construct something is a very, let's say, it would be an activity that can and should be very carefully considered as a part of the SIFA market validation project. The market validation is many ways we see that it should be light and lean, and when we talk about the construction, it really is about related to that environment where the market validation is taking place. Let me say, for example, that if you are validating whether a certain type of curricula that validates the feasibility of this vis-a-vis use of the 3D printers in, say, in the space of incubator, or in the space of a special, let's say, classroom attached to the educational institution or TVET institution. So obviously then some minor tweaking on top of the, of course, the acquiring of this kind of machinery or equipment is needed, but the purpose here really is not to build buildings or so forth. But then look at the SIFA project categories. So when we look at the category A, these are projects that include impacts on indigenous people and or who are maybe located in a protected area or habitat. So we can see that by default, it's also a question of having permissions and acquire this permission to conduct your project. And again, bearing in mind 18 months and kicking off hopefully in April, it's a short time sometimes for even consider this type of activity. D category is again defined based on the risk, and this is a substantial risk. So when we are looking at the projects that include physical or economic resettlement of various inhabitants, or which are located in unused natural environments. So again, it's something that we see that perhaps in this context is not necessarily applicable. Moderate risk also in category B, we are looking the projects which are without impacts on indigenous people or limited physical impact on economic resettlement, but nevertheless, there are business activities which may have a limited, impact, and they have a risk that is carried out on this type of environment. So pay attention also really, and it's a good question. So it's good also to tackle this now here up front in this chat. So other questions, how many partners can be part of the consortium? It's you can do the project. We do not limit the number of the partners, but it is really about the project management as well. So having several partners, say more than 10 or even more than 5, it also puts heavy burden on the project administration and the management. For us and also for you as a project as a project coordinator or project partnership, I think the most important thing is that whatever partner you have in your project, that they have a meaningful role to play. Don't take in any free riders or extra baggage who don't have a clear role to play in a project, who are providing clear contribution to the project. That is not of your interest. It will be not on the funder's interest, and in the end, this will also be something that we will discuss once we get to the stage when we are negotiating the implementation agreement. But my initial hunch could be something like I mentioned, anywhere between 1 to 10, depends on your needs. But pay attention also to the fact that not all the partners need to be partners or members in the project. You may have a support partners who don't necessarily require or are not eligible for SIFA funding, but still maybe put resources there in pro bono and in kind. You may also have some critical technical issues related to the equipment that you don't necessarily have in your partnership. And you may think that, okay, this is something that, it's a one-time thing. I can subcontract this and it will be then out. So it's also potential to include some of the organization as subcontractors, as long as they are not performing any critical part of the project. Does the maximum budget allocation per theme include 10% contribution of the applicant? So the answer for the question is yes, indeed. We would like to see that what does the maximum budget of the whole project include. So if it's 10%, if it's 20%, you can put 50%. That would be again a great contribution, and would certainly perhaps make the evaluators consider it even in a positive light. But yes, do make clear what is the part of the grant funding and what you are asking, and what is the overall budget of your project. Does the maximum budget allocation per theme include 10% contribution of the applicant? Yes, it does. Is food industry also included? We are sector agnostic, so food industry as well as any other industry, let's say within the scope of normal regular ESG requirements, these will be of course by all means included. But pay attention that it is really about TVET. So it is about developing TVET product, service, processes. If the client where the end beneficiaries are working is food industry, by all means. I think it's a great to have a private sector partner who shows that there is actually demand, and there might be even a pocket to expand activities such as perhaps the TVET activity you are planning within the industry itself or even beyond one country. Which % of the budget should be allocated to personnel? That is a good question, and as you can see that we have not provided any percentage advice on any numbers, how much would you allocate for personnel. But generally, when you look at the personnel, it of course it depends about the project partnership. How many organizations you have participating and what are they doing? Who are the people they are absolutely critical and need to engage in the implementation of the project? And then you yourself have to think about it. Okay, these are the resources personnel-wise that we need. So you take that number of the resources that you need to make sure that the project in all different 4 phases is executed smoothly. So we don't provide any ballpark personnel percentage. Whatever you think it's important and applicable and manageable, do so. The SIFA grant amounts to maximum 400,000 euros, and if there is a minimum 10% counterpart contribution. So the Smart ME, of course, allows only 400,000, and that of course applies only to 2 of the themes. So when you look at the Smart ME, it will be capped there, and your grant funding cost will be capped there. But what I said is that if you are putting your own resources, 10%, 20%, 50%, you can also then introduce these in the different parts of the documentation, especially when you look at Excel sheets and the budget table. So we do pay attention to that, minimum 10%, and the higher it is, let's say that the higher it is, we welcome also other options than 10%, anywhere all the way up to the 100% of your matching funding. Our training center has registered entities in some of the SIFA countries because we plan to expand there. Can those entities be considered as partners for the project? Well, it does make a lot of sense if you have a good working service or product in one of the countries, and you are planning now to see that whether it actually can be transferred or replicated even into another country. So you do need a partner, of course, in that other country, and they need to be there in place from the beginning, because they will, of course, be ideal partners for you also to do the market validation, to understand who are the users, plug in the potential user sample for the validation, but also then advise you together when you are thinking about the actual entry strategy and what will be the business plan for the whole operation. So the answer is yes. 18 months is a tight time frame for deep validation on our own resources before reimbursement. So I think it's important to note that 18 months, it is short time. And as I said earlier, do pay attention. How do you craft your project? You don't have to put everything and all eggs in this particular project. So think about what have you done before, what you may do afterwards with your own resources. What is absolutely essential is the validation. And so focus really all your resources on that. But also pay attention to the fact that we do reimburse in 4 different tranches. So you won't be paid only after 18 months. You do get paid in 4 tranches, and you have also opportunity to have an impact on the timing of these payments. Each tranche is paid after a certain milestone, and you have an opportunity to impact, how much time do you take, for example, in order to finish the milestone 2? How much time do you need to take to finish milestone 3, which personally I would recommend to take all the possible time you can and put all the efforts what you may have on these 2. And then, of course, you have the closing milestone number 4. So you have quite a bit of leeway there to think about. And nothing prevents you to also introduce sort of mid milestones there for your sake. But we as an organization, we are looking for you only these 4 milestones because these are also for us the payment points. So internally, think carefully that how do you calibrate it, because this is also related to your own allocation of your matching funding. And by now you probably see that the matching funding is an important element for the success. Let me see. Please explain what will be regarded as a project exclusively focusing on training. For example, if the project about developing a simulation platform to offer digital skills training on coding with already uptake agreements with private and public companies with clearly defined users, will this be an eligible project? Well, to put it frankly, I think this is a very eligible project, and we do see that there is obviously plenty of work done already in order to establish whatever activity you have at this stage. So focusing on exclusively training would mean that somebody would put forward a proposal that doesn't or does ignore the concept of market validation. So for example, you have a 16 months of project that just simply does training and training already existing predefined groups who have been trained before. So that is business as usual. That is what your organization is already doing. So training in the context of market validation, like for example, if you have a new curricula which is assisting certain organizations to offer training on coding with certain type of user groups that you may or may not have addressed before, that is of course conducive condition for market validation, and hence training within that context, whether it takes X number of months, it's perfectly fine. But remember that the training has to be then related to the validation. And if you have, for example, 3-4 iteration of training with that selected user population, that should give you a very good understanding what is the appetite, at least for the end users for this type of service. It probably gives you a good appetite also as a business owner, that whether this is something that we can actually start delivering in a more sustainable ways. And as you mentioned, you already have uptake agreements there. So looking forward the submission of this. Will you consider applications from businesses who have annual financial statements that are not audited? Unfortunately, we do require audited financial statements, and these need to be relatively newly audited statements. So please do consider to get your financial statement audited as soon as you can. Remember that this is also an opportunity for you to think about that perhaps the next calls, what will be published in due course this year, are an opportunity for you in case you still are struggling with some basic eligibility criteria. And that is something that brings me to the end of this particular batch of questions. Let me look at we have some other questions coming up. And I will take a first question here. In Annex 4 Environmental and Social Impact Assessment Screening Checklist, is it mandatory to fill all informations? Let me see, it's a bit tricky here. to fill all the information in case we are launching a training center. Well, if you are launching a training center and you are looking environmental and social impact assessment screening, I would strongly advise you to make sure that you take a look at all the necessary boxes that needs to be ticked. And this is of course not only because you would be able to gain access to SIFA grant, but it really obviously it sounds to me that this is something that would be actually really essential to the sustainable launch of your endeavors. So please do so. Would you please consider an extension of the deadline to ensure that successful delivery and enhance the quality of the proposals? Oh, I wish I could say that yes, absolutely, but no, we can't. Unfortunately, deadline is deadline, and it's been established there because we also want to offer these opportunities later on this year. So if you feel that now you are not ready to submit, there will be another call coming and three other calls coming. So don't feel obliged to put now forward a half-baked proposal. On the other hand, if you want to put forward a proposal which passes the eligibility screening and it goes to the technical assessment, mind you that we will provide feedback to every proposal who has been technically assessed, so evaluated by the independent evaluators. So if you really want to be tactical, you know that, okay, I'm not ready yet, but let me forward it so I can get some feedback. So it might be one way to do it. And you get some feedback that may help you to calibrate your proposal in the next call. But in short, no, sorry, we don't extend the deadline. Will a program that takes 12 months still be accepted, or should it be strictly 18 months? It will be accepted if it's 12 months. And again, it's your business, it's your product, it's your service, it's your process. So if you think that you can do validation in 12 months, we cannot say that, no, we know better than you do. So 12 months is perfectly applicable. But again, I just want to highlight that it goes fast. So do consider anywhere up to the 18 months if possible. I do understand that if it's it depends on the type of validation, of course, and it depends the type of the product and service. So short answer, yes, we can consider 12 months as well. Will the launch of a new training center that will be both physical and online be eligible? The project will not be building the space. It will only be renting a space and equipping it with necessary equipment for students. That's a good question, but again, I would like to take you back to the fact that what is validated? Are you validating a physical space? And if you are validating a physical space, what are your assumptions? What is the purpose of the use? If the purpose of the use of the physical space is essential to whatever product, service, or process you are validating, of course, you need to rent the space for that. You need to rent the space to put, for example, 3D printer there, as I mentioned before. Without that, you cannot validate the concept. So in this case, you have to think about it and present also in the proposal that this is the concept. And it's essential that there will be a physical space. And yes, the answer, of course, is that we cannot, in this world, we cannot do everything online. We do need a physical space. But I would like to pay also your attention to the fact not to go through the details of the criteria from the technical evaluation, but innovativeness. So think about what is innovativeness, and in here, what is the connection between the physical and the online? What is innovative in the proposal, for example, point of view of using existing technologies? What is the innovation of bringing together, for example, different type of users, consumers, and beneficiaries that have not been reached before? without writing too much of your proposal anymore, so I hope this answers your question. So do think always the context and what is necessary and needed in the validation. Must the project measure employability? Is it one of the indicators? If you look at the criteria, we talk very seriously about jobs, and jobs including employability and potential enhanced employability is important. So if you are able to provide a data, or rather data that is backed by let's say already verified sources, which then are linked to your proposed validation plan, then I would say that yes, of course, please do so. But pay attention to the fact that yes, jobs and job creation, it is vital and it's absolutely critical for SIFA funding window 3. Can the lead applicant be from a university and co-applicant from industry, MNC? Yes, that is perfectly fine. We don't have a category of co-applicant, so we have a category of lead partner and project members. So in this case, it would be probably lead partner university and project member industry, MNC. Sounds like a good combination, and we very much look forward to this kind of partnerships in the proposals. In case I am interested in farming, should I have a land, or will you be able to help me with the land? Farming and agriculture, of course, as a sector is perfectly eligible and legit to play a role as a validation ground for any product, service, process what is being proposed. For us, again, if you are planning to do something with the land which you don't have at the moment, it will be very difficult perhaps to formulate a proposal. So I would advise first perhaps understand what are the conditions, not to know better of your proposal, but what are the conditions for acquiring such lands, and then think about how and what is the relevance of this to your product, process, or service. And in the end, of course, to the validation, where SIFA funding window 3 can provide support. So this, unfortunately, we have to say, not only for you, but also to all other applicants, that we are unfortunately not able, or fortunately, we are not able to support you in preparing your project. Everything what you do and you submit as a proposal to us needs to be done by you and you only. We will not be participating in the preparation of your application or proposal, and we will not be helping you beforehand to do any of the activities, nor after, that needs to be done within the context of the project. Under 5.1 of the application form, it is stated, is the project a standalone project or part of ongoing project activities? And the answer there, what we require, is yes and no. Should the answer option be standalone project and ongoing project? This seems a bit confusing. So that's a good question, and I'm glad that we can clarify it here, because here what we mean standalone project is that when you are applying SIFA funding, is this particular project what you are funding, is this something that you are solely focusing on all the efforts of your consortium, or could this be, for example, a part of any larger already existing and ongoing project? If it's a larger of something which is already existing and ongoing, and it's already funded by whatever the channel might be, the interest for us, of course, is to know that there won't be any double funding. And I would like to add that regarding the standalone, or is it a part of already existing activities, we do not take any any take on whether it's good or bad, because sometimes it might be so that you have had a very good project which you have finished, and out of that project comes something that actually you haven't even thought before you embarked on that. And now you are sitting on top of it, whatever prototype or a concept that could actually need to be validated and has the really potential to be successful EVAT product, process, or service going forward. So I hope this answers your question in this case. Michael, I think we are unfortunately getting a little bit over time. I'm aware that we might be cut off if we are extending beyond our time limit. So where do we stand? I just have to ask our technical people that whether we can continue. Just one more question.
Yes,
but then we
do. Hi, Laura. Yes, we can do a couple more.
Okay. Perfect. So let me look at one more question here. Are there any restrictions to what can constitute match funding? If our match funding is staff costs, how do we show proof of this? We give you a couple of heads up or examples of the matching funding, and staffing costs, of course, are one of such. So how do we show proof of this? Obviously, the staff who is provided as a matching funding, they have to be people who are engaged to do the work in this project. So they cannot be, it's just simply an overhead staff that is included in the overhead, but they have to have a role to play in the project. And simply by we are at this stage, we do not go on that much details that we would be asking a pay slips of the matching of the staff, but you simply provide the costing based on what are their monthly or let's say daily cost rather in this case, because they probably will do some specific work in a project. So you provide your own assessment or your own figure on the cost, but the staff is eligible, and you can put these forward then as a matching funding cost. Do we and yes, of course we do need, and you asking also, do we show proof of this? So yes, in the end, when we are going into the negotiations, and hopefully, of course, your proposal will be selected, then we will go through, of course, all the personal resources as well with you, and to see that whether the personal resources really are applicable, and in this case, I hope they are. And then we will also see that the costing of the personal resources are reasonable, and it's based on the actual grounds. Under 5.1 of it is so it's a coming back question, is the yes or no, are we part of the existing project? Let me park this question. This is something that I need to take offline, and we will be there, of course, answering to you through SIFA sites. And I see that there are also a couple of more questions coming in, so please do send more questions. I also take a note from our techniques that we have to close the session now. We are a bit over time, so I hope Microsoft doesn't close us down before we finish. But yes, so we have a few more questions coming into the box, so please pay attention that we will be answering those questions, and we will be also answering any other questions, and these answers will be at our website hopefully by the end of business tomorrow. So I thank you, everyone. Oh, it's time to drink some water now. It's good questions, and this of course helps us to calibrate as well our offering, and I hope this was useful for you. And please do continue send questions to us. So it's our interest that your proposals are the best as they can be. Carlton, back to you.
Thank you, Hilary, and thank you to our participants today. Thank you for joining us. Thank you to obviously to ALDA-NEPAD, the implementation agency, and our funders, the European Union and KfW. You have 18 days, if my numbers are correct, 6th of February to get those proposals in. Let's follow Hilary and Lidau's advice. Let's try and get them in on the 5th. So that there's no over rushing and missing out on any last minute boxes which are not filled. Remember, SIFA is about youth, particularly female training and professional development. It's about employability and employment of the youth in our 8 member states and the countries which are joining those member states if we're looking at regional projects. Please focus on this. Please focus that some key takeaways from the questions today. The 18 months is a limit, and the project has to be doable. If it's not doable, it won't make the cut. So please focus on that. Funding window 3 invests in taking to market your innovation, not our innovation. Hilary has clearly said, we will not be helping you to do it. We will be funding you. So that's a critical aspect. You can contribute a lot more than 10%, but we have an absolute threshold on what we can contribute. So again, don't be restricted by the 10%. Think about what your project content looks like. Hilary and Lidau have told us that innovation is contextual and impactful for a new user population. Keep those words in mind. They are critical for making sure that your proposal is a good proposal, and it's not to be defined by a sector. And lastly, your consortium, your partnership. It should bring added value. Every member of your partnership should have an added value. These are some of the takeaways from this morning's session. We thank you very much. We thank the presenters. We thank Unami Dube from ALDA-NEPAD. And we look forward to seeing your proposals when we look at them on after the 6th of February. And please follow the website for updates, the F&As, and we wish you the best of luck. We're closing out for this morning. Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck.